From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Well, good evening and welcome into Open Line. I'm Chuck Long, going to be along with you for the next hour. Always glad when you tune in to Open Line because, as we always say, Open Line is your forum. Your questions, your comments, we always welcome them. Tonight is Ask the Expert. It's Ask the Attorney, and we're so glad Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm is with us, one of our most popular guests. I know every time Kevin's here, a lot of calls, the phones just light up. So when you get that question or comment on your mind, give us a call. Great to see you, Kevin.
It's good to be with you. Yeah, it's always fun. I told Chuck a little earlier, we always get to see him on there and we know who he is. So when you're out, I guarantee you people say, hey, I saw you on Channel 5.
And same to you.
Yes, that's true. So
that's it. But you know, the topic, especially when we're talking legal, so many people, they sit and they're thinking, you know, I'm not sure exactly what to do.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I have a case. A lot of times it's just basically asking the right questions.
Well, Chuck, you know, I've been a lawyer now 32 years, and I've hired and trained 110 lawyers in my legal career.
Wow.
So what did I learn from all that? Guess what? Tomorrow when I go down there, there'll be some problems confronting me. I'll go into another lawyer and they say, well, Kevin, you've got more experience than that guy. That's not the answer. The answer is let's discuss it.
Right.
Because there's always something that doesn't catch you in the first conversation. And so I like to discuss it again. In fact, I represented a time and space management guru, one of the best in the nation. And he said, well, Kev, I can show you how you can be more productive. I said, well, tell it. But he said, you go over this and over. And I said, because even the most brilliant can't catch everything in round one. He said, now I know how you do it.
That makes
sense.
It was
all interesting.
And I mean, the cases, though, that you talk about, that you represent, that sort of thing, I mean, it's a broad range of areas. I mean, from divorce to child support, personal injury, criminal law. I mean, you're really to be admired because I'm telling you, you have to know a lot about a lot.
You're very kind. And so, you know what I've learned? We discuss this so often because you've got to stay on top of your game all day long because someone's taking what we share with them and they're acting on it. And so, yeah, it's good. They say it's almost a dying breed of the general practice of law because everyone is specializing. And that's why I have a firm. And for me personally, or you, Chuck, or our viewing audience, I like the firm. Two are better than one. Threefold cord is not easily broken.
Well, exactly. So I tell you what, phones have already lit up, and we are going to go right to the phones, and we are glad that you're joining us. Carol, we appreciate you calling tonight. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
A question.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to know if the rental, if you rent an apartment, if you have rental rights or not.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, here you do have rental rights when you rent an apartment. There's the Tennessee Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, and you have a lot of rights. And there's a host of things. And if you were in that situation and you found yourself in a dilemma with a landlord, you know, one of the greatest resources ever is legal aid. They're experts in that. I'm a landlord myself and been in that business for many, many years. So both sides need to be able to have some representation. And quite frankly, you know, the more that you're educated, you know, somebody says, you got to move out tomorrow. Wait, that's against the law. You can't move them out tomorrow. But what do you do when somebody comes up and padlocks your home and you can't even get your things out? That's why when you need a lawyer, and remember, the law, you should always try to obey the law, but don't be foolish and know that the man that you're doing business with, that he will obey the law.
Good to know. Carol, thanks so much for calling in this evening. We always appreciate the calls, and like I said, our phone's very busy, so we're going to continue going back to the line. Cheryl on 2. Good evening, Cheryl. Do you have a question or a comment for attorney Kevin Kennedy?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
I just retired and am interested in starting pet sitting as a sideline and wondered how I would go about getting started, what business licenses, if any, are required, what type of insurance would be involved, liability issues, that sort of thing.
Okay, great question. You know, in fact, today in the Tennessean, they said we had a 7.1 increase in new businesses in Tennessee. Good news. thank you so much for taking that entrepreneurial spirit and doing business. First off, you know, everything that we do, whatever it is, it's going to be regulated. So we would start with a business license. 3 forms of business. You can be a sole proprietor, you can do an LLC, that's a limited liability company, or you could do a little subchapter S corporation. And talk to a lawyer, hear what they say. That people say, and quite frankly, I've been in business and still in several businesses, and I've had all of them, from partnerships to LLCs, and the LLC gives you some protection. Do you need liability insurance? Absolutely. So I don't sell insurance, but if you were my client, I'd say let's save up a little money. I like the idea. Let's evaluate the location. Let's evaluate our advertising. Questions, 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 and especially if you can get some questions from those who are already in the industry. But I do recommend a LLC. It's minimum expense, and it's great protection. My tax man says, now, Kevin, I don't know why you do that, because you could have. And I said, well, if you went to GM today and you went to Ford and Chrysler, they're all corporations. So I think there's some smart men up there at the top. And you go to any bank, they're all corporations. So one is liability, and I'm very sensitive to that, and the other is tax savings. So I think I'd rather protect my assets better and recommend that for you.
Okay, great advice. So again, Cheryl, thank you so much for calling in this evening. Again, so many great questions and possibilities to call in tonight on Open Line. Talk to attorney Kevin Kennedy. A broad range of things that you can ask about. Comments, questions. We're going to go back to the lines right now. Sherman is on the line with us. Sherman, thanks for your patience. And do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
It has to do with malpractice. I've had 2 lawyers that have turned me down. My wife had surgery, and the surgeon operated on the wrong side to put in a port.
Ooh.
The second issue is over at Tennessee Oncology. They never told my wife before she got chemo that could cause heart problems.
Okay.
She's got major heart problems that she did not have before. And I just want to know whether I have a case lawyers that turned me down.
I'll hit those. Number one, you have to prove a deviation from the standard of care in the medical community. So if you'll have to get an expert, you'll have to get a lawyer, and the lawyer will try to get an expert to look at your particular situation and say, this doctor deviated from the standard of care, went outside that. And then that would be a breach of their duty to provide that care for your wife, and then you get into damages and what are they worth. One of the things, every time you hear all the legislators and all the hospitals have lobbyists, they always want to present legislation to protect the doctors and the hospitals. Well, what they really do is keep the lawyers from even getting involved in the case. So you can say, well, I believe in tort reform, I don't, until it comes to your home and there's a botched deal. Then you say, well, hey, I'd like to get a lawyer. So you got to keep the courthouse doors open, because the lawyers are the last vestige of justice for the people. So again, I would tell you, keep pursuing, even though this lawyer turns it down or that lawyer. And here's another great point to learn. They say, well, why do you go to a firm? Well, because usually the firm has resources. The last case that we settled at $5 million, wow, that's a lot of money. But we had to hire the very best experts. So, and the very best experts, are they cheap or are they high? They're real expensive, so we had to have the resources to finance that lawsuit. And if you had someone that was out here and didn't have those resources, well, you can already understand those settlements won't be that high. They can drop. So that's something you should think about. I'd tell you, keep pursuing that. Back to the last question, informed consent. Every time you have a medical procedure, they said, here, you need to sign here, 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 here. What they're really saying is you're giving consent and you're being informed. But realistically, you and I know they haven't told you everything, that you didn't know you're going to have these heart issues. So yes, you have a cause of action to pursue with that.
All right. Well, Sherman, thank you so much for calling in this evening. Our phone lines are very, very busy. We do need to take a short break. Please stay on the line with us. We want to take as many calls as we can in the coming hour. We are asking an expert tonight. We're asking the lawyers, and that's Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. Short break and more Open Line right after this.